You're listening to the 3 Feet Radio Show with Ben Carbonaro and Luke Herbert. From our studios come special guests and netball commentary, exclusively on YouTube.
Good morning, listeners, and welcome to the 3 Feet Radio Show. It's hard to believe, but season 2014 of the ANZ finished a long time ago, and it's now time for 2015 to start. It starts this weekend when the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic take on the Adelaide Thunderbirds. But we'll talk about that another time, and joining me in the studio today is my co-host, Luke Herbert. I'm sure you're excited for the ANZ to start again.
Oh, look, I certainly am excited, and to still have an opening home game, but, that, again, we will have to come back to another time. And why don't you get us started, Ben, because I'm very excited about today's show guest.
I am too. A lot of onlookers were quite impressed by West Coast Fever's undefeated run at the ANZ Championship. And joining us today is a player from the West Coast Fever in shooter, Kate Beveridge. G'day, Kate. How are you this morning?
Yeah, great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem at all. It's great to have someone from Perth on the show. We don't do it too often. Just to get things underway here, a lot of onlookers were impressed by how well you guys did at the pre-season tournament. Has that been used as motivation at all heading into Sunday's first game against the Firebirds?
Yeah, we had a really great time up in Sydney for our pre-season. We were really just focusing on ourselves and what we needed to put out there. So we didn't really take too much from, what everyone else is saying and that sort of thing. All the teams play different combinations in each game. So I don't think you can take too much away from each team. But, in how we went, we were really impressed with what we put out there on court. It's a really good building block for us going into round one, and, we're hoping to improve from there.
That's one of the best summaries of pre-season I've heard from a player. So, I think the listener should really pay close attention to that, because I think certainly in the past there's been teams that have put too much emphasis on pre-season results. But I'm just going to shift gears here a fair bit, and you are a bit of a foodie. Do you have any favourite restaurants or cafes in Australia or New Zealand that you like to go to when you're on tour with the Fever?
Oh, absolutely. So I really enjoy particularly our away games, because you get to go to another state, catch up with friends, or, we've made a lot of great friends playing netball, so playing against them, catch up with them, but most importantly, all the different cafes. So Melbourne's obviously a excellent city for cafe choice, and so we're really spoiled whenever we come to Melbourne. But yeah, I've got little favourite cafes in most of the cities now that, girls from our team have taken me to, or from the other teams that we're playing. So it's always really nice to be able to get over there and relax, have a great meal before we get into the hard stuff on court.
You mentioned Melbourne too, Kate. That's sort of when I got to know you reasonably well during your stint down here with the Vixens. Since moving back to Western Australia, how are you enjoying being back at home now? It's been about a year or so now.
Yeah, so I've been back for 2 seasons now. This will be my 3rd season with West Coast Fever. In terms of being home and around my family, my friends, it's been absolutely wonderful. My brother's had 2 young children since I've been back, so it's really exciting being around them and being a part of their family as they grow up. So I've really, really enjoyed myself, and hoping it continues for a little while longer.
And just for the sake of the New Zealand listener, and particularly the listener who lives in the deep south, what's Perth like as a training base? Because it's got a very different climate from, say, Steel Territory.
Yeah, absolutely. So it gets shockingly hot over here. We're due for 41 degrees today and stormy weather. So it does get really hot. But most of us, we've been here for a little while. There's only a couple of players who are new into the team, from other states this year. So we get pretty used to training in the heat. We are very lucky though. So in our training bases at the moment, they've installed big fans on the roof. So we've actually been really spoiled, and that cools us down a fair bit. But yeah, it's a beautiful city. I'd recommend to anyone to come over, particularly the New Zealanders. There's a really big New Zealand base here as well. We get a lot of Kiwis belong to our games when we're playing against the other Kiwi teams. So yeah, I'd recommend for anyone to come over.
And Kate, you spoke about that Kiwi connection. You've got Erina Mikari, who has come over, a defender this year. How has she fitted in? We interviewed her just before Christmas, and she sounded like she was genuinely excited to be getting an opportunity, hopefully to reignite her career, because she hasn't always got a lot of court time over in New Zealand.
Yeah, she's an absolute legend of a person and a player. She's fitted into this team seamlessly. She's just a wonderful, vibrant personality having the team, with her partner and her little girl Billy as well. We just really love spending time with her. And she's also injecting something different into our team, with her knowledge of the New Zealand sides and playing a little bit different to the Australian way. So we're very lucky to have her. And I think she was an absolutely wonderful choice for our team.
And just moving on to a lighter-hearted note here, can you tell us a bit about your funniest netball moment while playing for the Australian Flyers before last year's Fast 5 Grand Final?
Oh, well, so before the Fast 5 Grand Final, we actually had to perform a little dance. We was about doing. Typical white girl can't dance at all. And so we had to get out there and do a little bit of a, dance in front of, a crowd of a few thousand people. I managed to stuff it up pretty bad, but it was all in good fun, and we all had a bit of a laugh. And we had Ash Braggs, who was the centre of it, so she got to do, most of the hard moves. But yeah, so it was pretty funny. Mortifying if you like me and you can't dance, but it was, it was good fun for the few minutes that we had to do it.
It's okay, Kate. I can't dance as well. I'm sure you would remember from various Vixens functions back in the day. I can't dance to save myself. Obviously,
I don't know about that.
Obviously, earlier on we did mention that first game coming up against the Firebirds. What are you expecting? What are you expecting from them? Obviously, you got Geitzy in defence. She's that real rock. But is there anyone else from what you saw in pre-season and that kind of thing that you think will be a threat on Sunday and for the rest of the year for them?
Oh, I think they're going to be a huge threat this year. I mean, they've been in the grand final the past couple of years. They came, relatively close last year, but were kicked by a phenomenal side in being the Melbourne Vixens. So they're definitely a team to watch out for. But, they had a few changes like most of the teams, but I think they've had some really great gets. So, yeah, I think they're definitely going to be a really hard side to beat. But I think we match up against them very well. We've got Caitlin Bassett against Laura Geitz, and, they know each other inside out, so that should be a really great matchup. And then all the way down the court, we've now got Erina, who adds a little bit of height to help us combat Romelda Aitken. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a really hard tussle, and really fingers crossed that we come out on top.
I think that would be an excellent game to watch on TV or to go along to if you're able to. And I think it also.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it also reflects how the Australian sides are on balance stronger than their Kiwi counterparts. But shifting us along from that sore point, when you were younger, do you ever consider playing anywhere outside your preferred position of goal shooter?
Not really. There was one carnival. I remember it very fondly. It was the Kalamunda Carnival, and I think I was in about year 7, so I was very young. And there were 2 goalers who were playing ahead of me in my goaling position, and the centre court player rolled her ankle. So in game 1, she rolled her ankle. So for the rest of the tournament, I got to experience the centre position, and we went on to win. So I always put that down as one of my highlights of my netball career, is playing centre, and I wouldn't have been much older than, 12 or 13 years of age, but, very fond memories of playing centre, but I try and push the boundaries at training. I'm always putting my hand up for the attack or some of the other positions. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't really have talent other than, scoring a few goals. So, I think for the moment I'll be stuck back in goal shooter.
And Kate, you talk about those good old days. I sort of virtually fell in love with the game as a young person studying my media qualifications at TAFE College, and I fell in love with netball. It was the CBT days. What are your memories of playing for the Perth Orioles? And of course, in those days too, Carol Byers was the coach, and players like Helena Ravitas were playing, and Stacey Rosman was playing. It was an interesting bunch back in those days, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that was my first experience of playing at an elite level for the Perth Orioles, and I really enjoyed that time. It sort of paved the way for me to, experience playing with some phenomenal players. I was playing alongside Jess Shin, who was the current Australian centre at the time, and is, at the moment WA's best centre product at the Grace Court. So, yeah, I was really fortunate with some of the other girls that I lined up against, and really enjoyed my times. And yeah, I think, from Perth Oriole days to West Coast season, we've come a long way, but I think we're still building on what we did do back in those days, and hopefully we can continue for it to get better and better and to become a more successful franchise.
And just a curious question, and did you ever see any of the old National Bank Cup, which was the old Kiwi competition?
No, I can't say I did, unfortunately. I heard it was amazing, though, if that's any consolation.
Oh, that's all right. I just thought I'd throw that in there just because we were talking about old times.
Yeah, no, unfortunately we don't get to watch it over here, but I think, from what I've heard and the fact that both the CBT and the Old National Bank have, come together to form ANZ, I think, that's a wonderful experience for both our countries to now be able to play against each other and to grow on from what we've built in the years beforehand. That's really exciting.
Just changing gears a bit here, Kate. Players at all levels of our great game, they have different reasons for being out on court continuously. What are your reasons for wanting to start to play when you're aged 11? And again, today, what motivates you to still be playing all these years later?
Yes, I started playing netball in year 3 when I was about 8. And it was sort of, I grew up in semi-country down in Australind, down south of WA. So it was sort of just what you did. The girls played netball and the boys played football on a Saturday morning. And, my mum had played netball before and I played in a team with all my best girlfriends from school. So it was sort of just what you did, and I fell in love with the sport and really enjoyed, playing a sport which allowed you to be relatively athletic but was also really social as well. I wasn't having to just run laps around doing the athletics or something like that. You could, involve your friends and form a team, and it was just a really great way to stay healthy as well as having fun. So that's why I fell in love with the sport, and I've been lucky enough to, play it for, over 20 years now. So, it makes me sound quite old, but I certainly still love the sport as much as I did all those years ago.
I have a mean question to ask you, and I can get away with this because Invercargill is my main centre, but what do you think of the Invercargill cafe scene?
Well, nothing springs to mind, so that's probably not a good thing. No.
Not surprising.
I think New Zealand, but I think Australians, we don't always know the best place to go in New Zealand, and I really enjoyed coming over there, and we spent a fair bit of time in, correct me if I pronounce it wrong, but Mount Magnanui or something of that similar, and it was just phenomenal. I really enjoy the lifestyle, and I don't think I've met, as a culture of people, nicer people, happy to chat to you, help you out if you need directions or asking them stuff. So I really do enjoy the fact that we always get to spend a week over in New Zealand. This year we'll be in Wellington for the week. Which all the girls are really excited about because it's just such a beautiful country.
And just away from netball too, Kate, are you still working with Ladder, the same organisation that I think Tegan Caldwell also works with, but she's in Melbourne office and you're in Perth?
Yes, I still work for Ladder, the program coordinator over here in WA. So that's I really appreciate being able to help some young people who have had a less fortunate upbringing to myself and be able to inject some different opportunities and some happiness into their everyday life. So I love my job. I'm very fortunate to have such amazing company to work for and employers. So yeah.
All right, thanks very much for joining us today, Kate. It's I certainly do miss your dry sense of humour, and I am surprised I actually didn't fall over more than once when you were playing down here in Melbourne because you are quite funny, but I'm sure I'll see you when the Fever are down here in Melbourne later in the year.
Absolutely, and I'm going to start practicing a few of my gags already.
No worries, Kate. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
You too, Kate. Thank you.
You've been listening to the 3 Feet Radio Show with Ben Carbonaro and Luke Herbert. Tune in next time for more special guests and netball commentary exclusively on YouTube.